Hi, I have a question. How do planes manage to fly through storms? And if not, how do they avoid them?
Hello again. So, can planes fly through storms? And if not, how do they avoid them? Well, the simple answer is that the planes are actually designed to deal with weather systems, but the primary function of any commercial aviator is to make sure that the passengers can get to their destination as safe as possible. And so pilots will not take unnecessary risks, especially risks that can be unpredictable and might put aircraft in danger. So, to facilitate this, at the very beginning or before every flight, there's what you call a flight dispatcher on the ground, and they will work on a flight plan and sit down with the pilots, typically a captain and a first officer, and they'll discuss the upcoming flight, the flight path, and part of that conversation, part of that briefing will include any concerns about whether that is approaching the flight path that the pilots will be flying. Now, in most situations and for the greatest duration of most flights, the planes tend to be well above the cloud systems. The altitude at which a typical jet aircraft will fly will be substantially higher than the altitude of typical storm clouds. However, when the plane is ascending or descending, there is a chance that it could go through a storm system. Pilots tend to avoid those because, as we said, they want to keep their passengers and the aircraft as safe as possible. Now, as good as our weather radars have become, as our meteorological predictions are, they're not perfect. And therefore, there is a possibility that despite a briefing on the ground, you could have a situation where a storm system does change, move directions, and come across the path of the flight. In order to see that, there are actually weather radars on the aircraft, typically on the nose of the aircraft, and this look out ahead by sending out signals and the timing, how long it takes for those signals to bounce back, because there's an indication, let's not get too technical about it, but there's an indication of how much precipitation is there. Now, this is represented on the displays the pilots have, and there are, roughly speaking, three categories and color codings that you'll have on those displays. If it's a level 1, that will show up as green normally, and green means that there's light precipitation, maybe some fog or low visibility. Those don't cause too much problems for aircraft. Level 2, pilots tend to avoid. That appears as yellow, and you have relatively quite a high amount of precipitation, and it'll probably be turbulent air, which will make the flight quite rough. And there's always the risk that that could cause danger for the flight. So pilots will avoid those as well. And lastly, this is the level 3, which appears as red. And this is, full blown thunderstorm kind of weather. And the pilots avoid those, no questions asked. So, yeah, I hope that answers your questions. The pilots will always try to keep you as safe as possible, and for the most part, will avoid the storms and use the tools to detect where those storms are so that they can keep everyone safe. I hope that answers your question, and I look forward to more for me and other aviation professionals. See you later.